Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Just set my live stream up here, just in a hotel today, just because we're on vacation. And hopefully the audio is all fine. Do let me know if there's anything wrong. Webcam is slightly different today as well, and I probably do look a bit tired, which is the reality because I've been traveling. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But in terms of starting off things with the chat, Henry, thank you so much. Member for 24 months, incredible. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Truly one of the real OGs around, and also great Madridista as well. So hope you're doing well. But starting off with chat, obviously from the top, really. Question about what I would do with the ideal wild card in terms of the midweek wild card squad. So fair point. I think Richarlison, I might not be so comfortable putting on a wild card because the whole point of Richarlison really is that he's a short sort of 1 week punt, right? So if you can't really afford Richarlison within your team, maybe what I would do instead is probably go for the combination of Garnacho and Sarabia. And maybe you could also change, for example, some of the forwards around. So let's say in the variant that has Muniz, for example, you could upgrade him technically to someone like Isak or Isaac, things like that. In terms of the back line, I wouldn't really change too much about it unless you're super confident that you won't need to book let's say if you're not planning to book too many transfers in advance within your wildcard, I think you can also consider maybe going for a Gordon as well, because Gordon effectively what he can do is he will just basically be a short-term punt as well, right? You're looking at the West Ham home fixture, pretty good fixtures as well in the short term, not a Gameweek 34 doubler, but then you can also move him on to Saka as well if you really want to sort of be aggressive with the wild card, or alternatively, because the wild card doesn't have Saka, you can also just move towards a Saka variant of that wild card. Dawn says, what does he do? So 1 free transfer, 2.5 in the bank, wildcard and bench boost use. I mean, generally, the way and the chip strategy that I recommend for most people is that I would probably still go for something like a wildcard 35. Now, it also depends on whether your team's good enough, right? If your team looks poor on paper, I think it does make sense to actually move away from that and go towards a wildcard 30/31. But it really comes down to your own sense check of your team. Do you think it can actually survive the whole phase between deadending to 34? So for example, this week, if we take it as an example, if you were thinking about, let's say, taking a -4 this week, and then next week's also a -8, -12, things like that, and you don't have, let's say, the requisite transfers to move towards a Haaland plus Salah structure because you don't have players like Sarabia and Garnacho who are sort of your glue players, I would probably consider wildcarding in the short term. So it's up to you. Your team, though, specifically, I mean, I'd probably play Dubravka in this situation. I'd play Porro, Ake, Zabarni. I think that's very strong. Yeah, your front line looks good as well. I'd probably bench Saka as well. So I'd consider wildcarding later. Kind of hope to see you around as well. If I didn't have my bench boost left, how would that affect my future transfers? It's a good point, actually. I think if I didn't have my bench boost left, you might not see me go Gusto. I might actually go Bradley instead, because, of course, I don't necessarily need someone for Gaming 37 right now. And I'm sort of planning for the future as well with Gusto, hoping that, of course, we don't see too much of Reece James before the season ends. And I think it's very probable, considering how, Reece James has sort of unfortunately not managed comebacks well recently. And because they were so light with him last time around, I can't see how they wouldn't be even lighter, given that he got re-injured anyways. So, yeah. Big case here, I think, for suggesting that Reece James is unlikely to play too much minutes for the rest of the season, and instead you probably could just do something else with your transfer, like a Bradley. Bacon Buddy says, call me crazy, but I bench Haaland going for a strong. I think that's fine. I mean, we do this in FPL from time to time, right? Like, for example, let's say in the free hit week, we were all pretty confident in Spurs, and obviously it didn't turn out well. But I think, yeah, if you have, let's say, a gut feeling on a certain team doing well, it does make sense to sort of play your Arsenal players potentially, bench Haaland if you really want to. I don't have that sort of reservation about Haaland myself, so I will be playing Haaland myself. Abhishek says, is it worth the wildcard this week? He's got Porro, Trippier, which Trippier is actually very good. I think even Ake is very good. I probably wouldn't, I'd probably risk it because at the end of the day, you've got your fourth defender in Gabriel. Your midfield is a bit weak, but ultimately you just play a 3-4-3. So actually, I think your team's very strong still. You can consider wildcarding though, but once again, it comes down to whether you have a free hit remaining. I'm more tempted to wildcard now or next week if I had a free hit remaining. Start Saka or Garnacho. I'd probably bench Saka, to be honest. Darwin or Isak for wildcard 30. What I would probably have a look at in terms of asking that question is, if I have, let's say, a free at 34, I'd probably go for Isak. If I had no free at 34, I'd probably go Darwin. He-Chan to Salah. I mean, I think that's a very easy and simple move. Yeah, I mean, I can't see why you wouldn't want to do that. Start Tony or Saka. I'd probably still start Tony. Foden or Gordon to Salah. I'd probably go out of Foden personally. And who to keep between Watkins or Solanke? I'd keep Solanke as well. Solanke's good at double in Gameweek 34. Watkins fixture is good in 32, but then ultimately you're not going to play Watkins, or you're not going to want to play Watkins in Gameweek 31. Whereas Solanke actually has really, really consistent fixtures up until Gameweek 34. So yeah, I'm definitely in the camp of keeping Solanke. And Jay Wavy, thank you as well for the 6 months. Really appreciate you being around. Hope you're doing well. Your question was, hey, Fran, start Odegaard or Haaland or Garnacho? Well, you've only got one option. I'd probably still start Haaland personally. It is still Haaland at home ultimately, and it does feel, it feels like obviously Odegaard is versus Haaland in a sense. I mean, he is literally, but it's also a question of, where do you think the game will go? I still think City will score. So I would go with Haaland personally. I'd probably put Odegaard at the back of my bench and then Garnacho just ahead of him as well. Monks, thank you so much for your super chat. Because your team value, you have to choose between Son or Salah. I would go Salah because I think, if you think about it, right, Salah is very close to Son in captaincy this week, but then next week it's not even close. So personally, I would go for the Salah move. And then another thing too is, yeah, I think, if you want to go up, interesting actually. So you could go Son, but then you'd have to still take that -8, right? Yeah, I mean, I'd probably do what I said in terms of, I'd still go for Salah. I think you have to kind of take it on the chin that this is a bad week for you if you go for that -8, and that's totally fine. That happens, right? But yeah, you move on from that, and then you just simply go towards Salah. Salah's your captaincy for next week. For example, let's say if you went for Son, the issue with going for Son, in my opinion, is that, yes, you probably have the best captaincy for this week, but then what happens next week? You don't have basically a fixture that's equivalent to Salah. So you'd still probably want to take a -8 for Salah anyways, which doesn't feel very good in my opinion. Whereas next week you can obviously make different moves. Is Salah starting? I can't confirm that, but I think I can't see any reason why Salah wouldn't start. Fran, bench Saka, Odegaard. I'd probably actually consider benching Saka just so that you have a slight differential. Because, maybe the Saka minutes are slightly variable and you can go for Odegaard as a bit of a differential punt. Dimitri, thank you for your super chat as well. Your free hit, you have free hit. You're planning to wildcard 32. Interesting. The defense is worrisome. I mean, why wildcard 32? I'm curious because I think if you've got free hit, doesn't it make more sense to dead end into game week 34? Unless, of course, the alternative is, I don't know, maybe you do a short-term wildcard and you're planning to free hit on 37. So do let me know what your thoughts are on that. Because personally, I think you should still persevere with the team that you have in wildcard 35 if you have... Oh, actually, no. So you do have free hit. Sorry, I'm being so silly. I read that as you don't have free hit. No. I think that makes sense. Applying to wildcard 32. I'm curious why you won't want to wildcard 31. I'm assuming you have some Spurs players this week, so maybe does it not make sense to wildcard 31? BL morning to you. Bench Ait-Nouri or Branthwaite. I'd probably bench Branthwaite because Ait-Nouri right now with the limited amount of attackers at Wolves' disposal, he's probably going to play a very attacking role, so I would take the chances right there. Senesi or Doughty for Gusto. I went out of Senesi just because he's injured, and when I thought about it, Game Week 32 is the next fixture. I actually need someone like Gusto, someone maybe on my defense potentially, right? So it's either between Senesi, who's versus Luton away, or Doughty versus Bournemouth at home, and I thought Doughty versus Bournemouth at home makes a bit more sense. And also because I'm not going to play Senesi in Game Week 34. So, I don't need him that much for the long term anyways. Is Eze good or any alternative players? I think alternative players are simply, you go down in price, you go to Garnacho/Sarabia. Ait-Nouri or Gabriel and Odegaard or Garnacho, please. I'd go Ait-Nouri over Gabriel this week. Odegaard or Garnacho, I'd go with Garnacho. Esteban to Virgil van Dijk for a -4. I think that's worth it. But you might want to also just... If it's, for example, not necessary to, let's say, go Virgil van Dijk, like if you can go Bradley for 2 weeks, maybe that could work out as well. Just going to quickly pop into Discord chat as well, Adam, just because you've mentioned. So, I think your situation is a little bit particular because you won't have Robertson and you can't really play anyone else who's got a good fixture. I'd probably consider. Honestly, I'd probably consider. I'd probably consider making a transfer anyways. I assume you don't have your free hit remaining, so I don't really like the early wild card. I do think you should just persevere, maybe make a transfer towards a defender. If you can go, let's say, Taylor to Bradley, that could work out quite well in your favor. I'm assuming that maybe you won't go for a triple up of Liverpool. Maybe you will, and maybe it makes more sense to go Robertson to Bradley. That could work as well. Because you can kind of see it as an, okay, fine, Robertson to Bradley is a good transfer in the sense that you get these two next fixtures. And then after that, your situation is such that you have excess money in the bank, you can play around with that. And then maybe around Gameweek 33, if it's very unlikely that Bradley's going to continue playing, you just move Bradley towards an Everton defender. Whereas obviously with Robertson, one of the things that we've seen this season too is that he's not going to play that many consistent minutes. So he's maybe not as good a pick as we probably thought. And I'd probably move away from Robertson and then just persevere, leaning towards wildcard 35. I agree with that. Gusto works as well. But then I think another thing about Gusto to mention is that if you've got a wildcard in your back pocket, Gusto is probably not as good a transfer. Salah, thank you for your super chat too. 2 transfers done of Kluivert/Watkins to McAllister. Oh, McAllister, interesting. Current expected 11. Areola, Ake, Zabani, Robinson, Son, Eze, McAllister. That's a very lovely lineup. I mean, good luck with the McAllister punt. That will be very, very interesting. Okay, back to Maki now. I'm in Valencia right now for my holidays. The Red Cup Debate podcast says, who would you pick? Palmer, Salah captain, both of home games. I'd probably still go with Salah, just, first of all, for the pedigree, the better underlying stats, even though, of course, Palmer has a fixture. NPC Cooks as well has asked, thank the stars, football, FPL, and FPL Fran are back. My question is bench Foden. I would still probably bench Saka, right? Because, look, a lot of people are still going to reluctantly play Saka. There is some doubt about his availability, which I don't think is really true. He's probably going to play. Adam Lynch as well, going back to that, I would consider Gusto, but I think worse for a wildcard 35. But yeah, sorry, going back to Foden versus Saka, Foden's probably guaranteed 90 minutes, so I'd much rather Foden seeing that he's at home as well. How far off am I to take a hit for? I'm definitely not taking a hit for Salah this week, unless let's say I find out for some reason that, let's say, Saka's not available. Sarabia, what's the hype around him? I mean, the hype is, first of all, he's a 4.7 million player. He's on set pieces, he's on penalties, and that's it, really. Like, really good fixtures for Wolves. I mean, Wolves are playing a lot of weak teams, so these are Wolves' fixtures in the short term, right? After this Aston Villa game, you've got Burnley away, you've got West Ham at home, Nottingham Forest away, and you've got the double fixture, which is basically Wolves versus Arsenal at home, and then Wolves versus Bournemouth. So obviously the Arsenal fixture, you just see it as basically plus 2 points. Bournemouth, obviously, you also see that as a really good fixture. But then after that as well, Gameweek 35, Sarabia is playing Wolves versus Luton Town. So as a short-term punt, I think Sarabia is amazing. And he could very well just be, a placeholder for Garnacho, who actually has, better fixtures after that. Son or Salah for captain. Personally, I would go with Son, but I think Salah's very close. But I'm going to have to put you in timeout as well. Apologies. Who to captain, Salah or Son? I've answered the question. I think we can do a little bit of a poll as well, to be fair, for our Gameweek 30 captain. Why not? Let's see. Questions in the chat. Bench one of Douglas Luiz, Saka, and Tony. I'd probably bench Saka, to be honest. I think Saka is the worst fixture. Good chance there to take a risk, I would say, and actually go for someone else. Son's leading the way right now. Salah close behind. Some people also considering Palmer, which makes a lot of sense. These are the best fixtures that we have. No one considering other. So, I mean, it makes sense when you have, like, these many good players with good fixtures. Start Saka or Tony. I'd still probably go with Tony. I mean, this is a really bad Saka fixture. If I had a better team, I would probably be benching Saka. Is Haaland essential for the rest of the season? I mean, I think he's essential from Gameweek 33 because the way I see it is Haaland is a must-have captaincy option for Gameweek 33. Now, before Gameweek 33, I don't think you necessarily need to have Haaland before that. So, Son hatchet coming. We hope so. But I doubt it's that easy for us. What about Palmer captain? I think Palmer captain is definitely the most left field captain. So if you're really seeking for a differential, it is Palmer. But personally, I think yeah, my bench is blocked on screen. Unfortunately, I'm on my MacBook, so it doesn't have the cleanest layout. But this is my bench as well. If you were interested in having a look at the bench, but it's a pretty poor bench. So as you can see, not exactly very good. So we try not to field this defense or even show it really. I mean, if I don't have to show it, the better. But yeah, I mean, I basically just have Saliba as my only playing player, so that's the tough situation that I'm dealing with. Vasilis, your defense is Neto, Zabani, Virgil van Dijk, Gabriel, and Pau. Good to go, I think so. You keep Saliba on bench. Interesting. You're playing. Are you playing a back four this week? I'm curious why that is. Is it worth taking a hit with Solanke to Muniz? No, not at all. What do you mean by going out of Solanke to go for Muniz? I don't think it's worth a hit at all. I mean, Solanke is a Gaming 34 doubler now. Just showed my bench as well. Start Aït-Nouri or Lascelles. I'd probably still start Lascelles. I think the fixture is very nice for Lascelles. Start Saka, Richarlison. I think there is some risk attached to Richarlison, right? Because what Angie said is that, yes, of course, he trained yesterday, but then you also have to deal with the flip side, which is, he might not start. But at the end of the day, Richarlison is versus Luton, and Saka is versus Man City away. So I would take my chances with Richarlison. I would take my chances with benching Saka as well. Start Saka Muniz. Definitely start Muniz. I don't think it's close. Why play Gabriel over Saliba? Just extra goal threat, really. And I don't see a situation, like, if let's say Gabriel's not ready to play this game, I can't see how they would bring him in as a late sub. So I'm just going to start Gabriel as it stands. Eze, thoughts? I like Eze, but you also have to consider whether you actually want to go cheaper. So, for example, Sarabi, I think, does well. If you need additional money in the bank, I prefer going for alternative options compared to Eze, who also has to still play Liverpool and City in the distance. Bench Saka Morris, I'd probably bench Morris. Transfer in Muniz or Solanke, I would probably transfer in. I mean, I would transfer in Solanke still, right? If you don't have free hit 34 in the back pocket, I'd still go for Solanke. But if you have if you don't have a free hit, I'm sorry, if you do have a free hit, you could go Muniz instead. Congrats on my season so far, Vitor. Thank you so much. Start Saka Morris. I'd still start Saka personally. Palmer, Son captaincy. It's Son for me. The poll also is leaning towards Son, which is totally fair. I think part of it too is not all of us have Salah, right? I don't have Salah on my team. Dylan Hudson as well, only 70 likes at the button. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys could do that, maybe even subscribe as well while you're here if you're new. Joe Diego says, I'm thinking of doing a minus 16 to transfer out Saliba, Gabriel, Son, Holland. Okay, Joe, you got me this week again. Salah for Saka and Watkins for Muniz for -4. I like those transfers, but I'm kind of curious. Like, what are your plans for getting Saka back into your team, Anonizi? Like, maybe honestly, I would actually not do the -4. I would rather go out of someone else next week and then have Saka versus Luton as well. Hey, Fran, would you go Isak or Muniz this week? I would probably go Isak. If you could afford Isak, I would go Isak. Madison or Richarlison for a 1 week punt? I'd go Madison, right? Because we don't have guarantees that Richarlison's definitely going to start. Is Son a better captain than Salah? Personally, I think so, but it comes down to your judgment. I think Salah's very close. I think Palmer's probably the third pick, exactly as it was in the poll, really, but it's close. And also, another thing to mention, too, is let's say if I had Salah on my team, maybe it's a huge differential in the sense that Salah's ownership is much lower than Son's ownership. So you could take that chance to go with a slightly differential captain. You're a legend, Fran. Thank you, Matt. So are you. Saka Garnacho, I'd start Garnacho. Did -4? Sorry. Are you saying should I do a -4 for Senesi / Reguilon to Aït-Nouri for -8? Nah, I don't think so, mate. I mean, this is not a good Aït-Nouri fixture. It's Aston Villa away from home. You don't really want to be taking a -4 to just get Aït-Nouri. You can get Aït-Nouri later down the line, but you don't need to get him now. John Wick says, hi, Fran. Sell Botman to who? Already own Ake, Saliba, Gabriel. Honestly, I might just consider. You could go Lascelles, right? If you just want to just downgrade and just do a like-for-like transfer. But ultimately, if you've got the chance, I'd probably go Bradley or Gusto. Isak or Holland this week, I would go Isak. Any changes? No, this is going to be my team. I've already used my one free transfer. So I'm pretty happy about the team as it stands. I am going to quickly have a look and see if we have any potential leaks in the meantime. So Can't really see too much news in terms of leaks right now, unfortunately. Just gonna quickly have a scroll through Twitter as well. Let's see. Nope, doesn't actually seem like we've got anything to our hands. What I have seen, however, is a sort of Man City predicted lineup and a Chelsea predicted lineup. So the Chelsea predicted lineup is this: it's Sterling, Jackson, Palmer, Modric, Gallagher, Caicedo, Cucurella, Chalobah, Disasi, Gusto, and Petrovic. But apparently, the Chalobah news, of course, is that he had a knock, but I think he's apparently fit to play. So that could be an interesting lineup. This is the Nathan Gissing predicted lineup. He's a Chelsea journalist and very, very good at actually guessing the lineups. In fact, I wouldn't even say that he's guessing. In terms of actual team leaks, though, we have no news so far, which is a little bit sad. So that's pretty much it in terms of the leaks and sort of predicted lineup front. Richarlison update. Unfortunately, we don't have one. You asked my plans for bringing back Saka's for next week, and I was thinking to replace Sons. And yeah, I think that makes sense. And Onizi, that makes sense. Show Brighton and Luton XGC last 6 matches. I mean, you can filter that yourself, but I also don't like looking at just the last 6 matches. I think 6 matches when you have an entire season of data is pretty useless in the sense that why be so arbitrary with 6 matches? You can go further back to 8 matches, 10 matches, 12 matches even, and I think that's better. And at least even if you're going to look at a 6-match sort of sample size, you should also look at that in the context and in the light of the sort of wider full season sample size too. Salah playing while fasting should be noted. Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, there are a lot of great athletes who do well, during this time of year, right? I mean, Kyrie Irving, I don't know if anyone's been watching him play basketball, but he's been doing pretty good. Shall I start Saka or Foden? I would probably start Foden. Start Saka or Elanga, I'd start Elanga as well. A good midfielder to replace Bowen. I mean, if you can go Salah, obviously go for Salah. But if you're looking for someone at around Bowen's price point, it's a bit of a tough question to answer because I think, unfortunately, Foden and Saka don't have, their good fixtures this week. And I would probably consider just going maybe Sarabia so that it kind of enables you to have other budget options. Like maybe if you want to upgrade a forward next week, if you want to go into Salah as well, that could work out. But obviously, I would recommend Salah, although I recognize it's pretty tough. But I think that's what you'd have to do. Stefan says, hi Fran, play Maguire possibly injured or take -4 for Virgil van Dijk, even Gusto. You've got no free at 34 and wildcard possibly 35. You know what? In that situation, I'd probably just go for Virgil van Dijk, right? You're kind of dead ending your team anyways. You'll go to wildcard on 35. And Maguire, I think, is injured. He also has a bad fixture, simply. So I do like the Virgil van Dijk -4. Shall I start Saka or Foden? I'd start Foden, personally. Why did I go Gusto over Bradley? So, I mean, obviously, I'm planning a little bit more for the long term, right? I don't have a wild card in the short term. Some people are planning to go for Bradley because, of course, yes, he's a short-term pick, but he's also going to pay off because he's playing for Sheffield United, and who knows, the Trent can get re-injured. But I would rather take my chances with sort of knowing that Reece James isn't that close to coming back. Gusto can serve me very well in the short term, and that's why I've gone with Gusto. Breno says, hey, Fran, would you take a -4 for Gusto and bench Gabriel? Probably not, to be honest. I would still actually just play Gabriel. It's not really worth it for a hit, in my opinion. All right, no play Foden over Saka. What do you mean by no play Foden over Saka? Start Saka or Gordon? I'd definitely start Gordon. Play Morris or Pau? I'd probably still play Morris. Hey, Fran, would you do Gusto in for Doughty or Salah in for Bowen? Don't want to do both. Salah in for Bowen at 100%. I don't think it's close. Fran, thoughts on wildcard 35, bench boost 37, free at 38. Your current team is already on 6 doublers for 34. I think that's fine then, yeah. If that's your sort of plan and you really want to use a free hit like that, go for it. I think the logic of people who are going for wildcard 35, bench boost 37 without the free hit, though, is that it's kind of interesting to actually just, dead end your team as it stands, right? but obviously you've got the free hit. So yeah, I kind of understand why you're doing that. At the same time, though, okay, let's say these Liverpool and Arsenal players are just very, very good, right? We want to keep them anyways. So maybe you can just consider doing that. But I guess you'd have to also move towards a short-term wild card. Yeah, fine. I would go for it. If you feel you're set up for the short term, because I think one of the things that wildcard 35ers do struggle with, right, is that they have to take a lot of hits in the short term. So let's say you don't have Salah in place, you don't have a good defense for this week. I would probably understand going for a wild card just to fix your team around, as opposed to saying, you know, you've got 6 doublers for Game Week 34. So it's more about how you navigate, let's say Game Weeks 31 to 35 for yourself. And if you think you're comfortable doing that, then obviously, pursue that strategy. Otherwise, I'd just recommend wildcard 30, 31, free at 34, bench boost 37. Start Saka, Foden, and Garnacho. I'd probably actually start Garnacho in that situation. I think it's pretty close between Foden and Garnacho, though. Start Brathwaite or Ait-Nouri. I'd still go for Ait-Nouri. I'm not really expecting an Everton clean sheet. So, yeah, I'd take my chances here and go with Ait-Nouri. Both probably going to lose their clean sheet, but Ait-Nouri is literally an attacker right now for Wolves. Dynamo says, yo, Fran, go without Salah and Palmer, or Bowen to Salah. I would go Bowen to Salah personally. Yeah. Play Gusto over Gabriel, Saliba, or Porro. Yeah, I'd play Gusto over Gabriel. Well, I'd play him over Saliba, actually, and I would just play Gabriel. Solanke, captain. No chance. No chance. I just think we've got such good midfielders on penalties as well, who we can take as options. I think we've got to go without Solanke. Start Neto or Kelleher. I'd go get Kelleher for sure. Chris Richards or Ait-Nouri. I'd probably go Chris Richards, right? Because it might save you some money. But I think Ait-Nouri is the punty pick, per se. And I kind of like that a bit more. Whereas Chris Richards is the safer pick. If you want, for example, the better Game Week 34 double, if you don't care about playing Chris Richards in the short term, go for him. Any leaks? Yep, I can have a look again. Doesn't really seem like we're going to have any leaks, though. Salah or Son? As a captaincy, I would say Son. But I think if you want a differential, Salah's perfectly fine. How close is Palmer? I don't think Palmer's... I mean, Palmer's actually pretty close. It's Palmer, right? Palmer at the end of the day. I think Palmer is a close third, which is sort of my concern. But yeah, I think the odds, if you see the odds, for example, for goal scoring this week, it's actually very clear. Like Son first, Salah second, Palmer third. Like there's quite a bit of distance between Son, Salah, and Palmer. Start Saka, Sarabia. I'd probably go Sarabia as well. I mean, I always tell you that I like going for my risky options in terms of effective ownership. So I would take those punts if you could. What are the 2 best 1-week punts this week? 1 mid and 1 attacker. Yeah, that's a good question, to be honest. Let's have a look. I can't wait to go Darwin next week. It's happening, boys and girls. Let me see. I think midfield. I mean, probably Madison. If I'm honest, in the midfield. Alternatively, I guess it could be Luis. I mean, Luis Diaz is a bit boring, I would say. Yeah, I would say Madison for sure. And then in the forward position, if you're really looking for a punt, I would say Isak as well. Probably Isak, maybe Darwin, maybe Jackson. So those 3 players kind of come to mind. Muniz as well comes to mind too. I'd probably go with Isak, right? Penalty taker 100%, which Darwin and Muniz don't have. And yeah, I'd take my chances with Isak versus West Ham. Start Muniz or Saka. I'd go Muniz. Dubravka, Areola. I would go with the home player, Dubravka. Great job, by the way. Thank you, Isaac. Neto or Leno in goal. I would take Leno for sure. Leno's just got a better fixture overall in Sheffield United. One of the worst attacks we've ever seen in the Premier League. Watkins 1-week punt in for Isak or Darwin. I'd probably go Isak, but do you need to go for a 1-week punt? I just think Watkins is so close to them. Like, are you actually getting that much gain or upside, Jackson? That's sort of my concern. Start Doughty or Gabriel. I'd start Gabriel. I'm going to have to put you in timeout, though. We try not to have spam in the chat, guys. Start Saka, Odegaard. I'd start Odegaard just for the differential. But I'm also going to have to put you in timeout. Apologies. What are my plans next week? Guys, I might have to take a big fat -8. So what I was thinking was that I would do this. I would go, because I've got Pedro Neto on my bench, right? So Pedro Neto to Sarabia, Bruno to Salah, and then Watkins to Darwin, because Unfortunately, I can go Salah to Cunha, right, and not touch Pedro Neto for a -4. But really, if let's say Darwin doesn't play too much minutes for Brighton, if he doesn't get injured, if he doesn't get a yellow card, I'm jumping in. I'm so sorry, I must have missed the super chat. So Emre Kappa, Gabriel Ake, Foto Osaka. I would go Ake. I would back Man City here, both situations. I would just go double City. But I did miss the super chat, and I apologize for that. Those Twins says, Salah for Douglas Luiz, but expensive attack in mid like yours. So what do you mean? Like, are you saying expensive attack and mid? I mean, I like Salah for Douglas Luiz, but do you mean at the expense of an attacker or midfielder? I mean, if you can drop Watkins, he's the player that I'd be most comfortable leaving out of my team. If that's sort of the question you're asking. If that's not what it is, though, feel free to drop in the chat a comment, and I'll look out for you. Who are the most essential players to have this game week? I'd probably say Spurs players, Palmer, Salah. That's pretty much it. Maybe Chelsea players as well. Like, if you could go for Gusto, I kind of like it. You can't afford Salah due to the already costly attack. Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, for me, I would go for Salah next week then, because Douglas Luiz actually has a good fixture, right? Those Twins. So why not go for Salah next week and maybe plan something like a -4, -8? I'm doing the same -8 myself, right? I'm going out of Bruno and I'm going to Salah. And that's sort of my plan. Now, for you, maybe next week, Son doesn't have such a great fixture compared to Saka, so maybe you could go out of Son. But if you want to go out of Douglas Luiz, I think, yeah, the best thing to do is if you want to go to a 4.5 million forward, someone around Muniz's price or Semenyo, I think will serve you quite well, hopefully. Can you see my bench? You can, unfortunately. It's just that it gets clipped out with the sort of streaming angles that I have on my MacBook. We won't be able to get to see my keeper, but I can show you my bench. That's fine. We can have a look at my bench instead and pretend like we don't have a goalkeeper. But my goalkeeper is going to be Neto. Mats Larson says Salah or Son as a captain. As I said, I prefer Son, but obviously, of course, if you're looking for a differential sort of captaincy gain, I would go with Salah. Worth taking a hit to transfer out Tavernier, and I think that's worth taking a hit for sure. Robert TG6. Differential Garnacho captain. I think it's too much of a differential, and it's not that good of a fixture. Like, it's Brentford away at the end of the day. It's not amazing. You've got 3 players here. Like, Palmer could be a differential captain enough. Salah could be a differential captain enough. I wouldn't take my chances with Garnacho. When you're already blessed with these options. Dan Watson, thank you so much for your super chat. Hey, mate, start 3 and bench 2. Saliba, Gabriel, Gusto, Doughty, and Kilman. Honestly, look, Doughty is such a bad fixture. I wouldn't trust Doughty this week. I think it's between Kilman and Saliba, but I would definitely play Gusto. I would definitely play Gabriel. I'd maybe consider just going double Arsenal, right? Because this Wolves team, they're very weak right now. They're away from home as well. They're versus Aston Villa. And if you looked at, of course, defensive strength, I would still say Arsenal actually probably going to compare a little bit better to Man City anyways. So why not take that chance, hedge a little bit with Arsenal, and just start your Arsenal players. Bench Kilman first and then Doughty last. And that's what I would do. Start Dallo. I think Dallo is perfectly fine. Palmer captain, awesome. Good luck with that. Bowen to Foden for a -4 hit. I don't like Bowen to Foden at all because, I mean, this isn't one of Foden's best games, right? Yes, he's going to play for sure, but so is Bowen. So how much gain are you to get for this -4 hit? It's not even Foden's best fixture. What do you think, Fran? Would you sell Foden or Son for Salah in 31? I think you can still sell Foden if nothing changes in terms of the forward that's leaving your team. Or if you've got enough money in the bank as a one free transfer to do it, then yeah, I would still go out of Foden, possibly. It's up to you, though, because the way I see it, right, is Son, I think, is still better than Foden outright for the next few weeks. Now, of course, Son will blank on Gameweek 34, so the question as well might be, is that something that you're going to take into account? And if that's the case, then maybe you can go out of Son instead. But I'd still probably keep Son if it didn't really mean that anything else is changing within your team. Semenyo or Saka, I'd still take the chance to go Semenyo in that situation. I did mention, I think someone did ask me, who's my starting goalkeeper this week? Exactly, that's what I thought. If I showed my bench, people would be asking what my keeper is. And my keeper is Neto. You know what, I'll put it as a pinned. I'll just put it as a pinned comment. And then you guys can see my bench for the rest of the stream if you want. How about that? Alrighty, so Libra Ake, I'd go Ake. I would just back Man City in this situation, right? We know that there's not going to be too much rotation at the back for Man City. The Man City backline is probably going to be pretty stock standard. So you're basically looking at what, Akanji, I would say, Diaz, Ake, Guardiola. That's probably going to be the backline that Man City play because Walker's out, Stones is out. I really doubt that Rico Lewis is going to play. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Akanji will sort of serve that Walker role correctly, and we'll see that instead. Neto or Martinez, I'd probably play Martinez personally. If you have Martinez as a goalkeeper, I would go Martinez. Start one, Gabriel Ake. I would go with the Man City players this week. Garnacho or Saka, once again, I would go with Garnacho. Start Petrovic or Onana. Petrovic for sure, in my opinion. I mean, this is Onana away from home. This is Petrovic at home versus Burnley with the best clean sheet odds this week. I would go Petrovic for sure. You don't have a wild card, and are you insane to consider for it this week? You don't have Palmer and Salah, and want to get in a few punts like Salah, Muniz, Darwin, or Jackson, and Bradley in defense. Personally, no, right? Because obviously, think about it like this: if you go for Palmer, if you go for Salah, if you go for Darwin, etc. Like Darwin, Salah, and Palmer, these are still amazing picks going forward. So if you're free hitting, it's kind of a waste of an opportunity to take maybe a big fat -4, -8, and actually get in transfers for players that you actually really like. Like if you went for those players, those three, and maybe you didn't care about Muniz and Jackson potential, or maybe you get Muniz because you need to go for Salah within the team and you can't afford a team without Muniz, but that's fine, right? I'd probably leave Jackson out because obviously he's close to a suspension. That way, you can still free hit, let's say 34, and then target your team towards 37. Or alternatively, of course, because you're going for Liverpool players, you could be just gearing towards Gameweek 34, and then you free hit on 37. That's probably how I would play it. If you had a wild card left, either free at 34 or 37. Chisel Planet, thank you so much. Member for 6 months. Awesome to see you around this season. You went for Isak and Kelleher. You sold Morrison Neto at 2 free transfers. I think that's perfectly fine. Of course, I approve. I mean, what I'd say is probably, do you have a free at 34 remaining? Because obviously, I would have preferred maybe Darwin over Isak, but I know you probably might like Isak. First of all, penalty taker, better fixture as well than Darwin. So I do like Isak anyways. You can see he's obviously at the top of my cheat sheet. Kelleher as well. I think I'm assuming you went for Kelleher because you just needed that extra money in the bank. So I'm hoping obviously Kelleher lasts long for you. But the news that we got on Allison, I think, is that we expect him back before Gaming 34. So I'm hoping that you get the Kelleher fixtures effectively up until before the United fixtures. So hopefully that works out for you. Carrie Ann Murphy says, hi, Fran. Or hi, friend, rather. Start Ait Nuri or Pau Torres. I would actually start Pau Torres. I think Ait Nuri just has a really bad fixture. Yes, of course, this Wolves team is capable of scoring, but at the same time, you'd have to say that they're pretty hamstrung, right? Cunha's only coming back from injury. He might not even start versus Villa. It probably makes more sense for him to start the midweek game. As far as Ait Nuri, yes, of course, he's attacking, as I said, but for me, I think this is a good chance for Aston Villa to get a clean sheet. I would go with Pau Torres personally. And you never know, like Wolves could actually concede quite a fair bit versus this Aston Villa team that's very strong still. Saka or Gordon, I would definitely start Gordon. Foden to Salah and Watkins to Muniz for -4. I would still wait for next week. I think Watkins has a good fixture. For a -4, I don't love it too much. To be fair, this is a bad Foden fixture, so I have to say it's pretty close. You could consider it. Hi, Fran. Do I have clean sheet odds? I mean, I can kind of go off the top of my head in terms of clean sheet odds. I think Chelsea versus Burnley was something like 40%. Spurs, Luton, 35%. And then Villa, Fulham, Liverpool, Forest, Man City were up there as well in the 30s, but in the low 30s. And then everything else is really poor. Even Newcastle was pretty poor because unfortunately what we've seen with Newcastle this season is that they've become a horrific defense very, very quickly. So, yeah, Gabriel leaks. No Gabriel leaks, but I think, guys, come on. Whenever Arteta says, "Oh, such and such player could still be involved in training," I think we're expecting that Gabriel starts. I think we're expecting that Saka starts. Let's be honest. Sorry, just started the video. Salah or Son as a captain. I'm going with Son as a captaincy. Even if I had Salah as an option, I probably would still go Son, but I can understand people wanting to go Salah as a differential. Bench Saka, Richarlison, and reasons why. I'd bench Saka if you were a little bit more risk seeking as a player, because of course you don't know for sure if Richarlison starts. But first of all, Richarlison's fixture is the best fixture in town. Like this is literally you don't get a better fixture than that as an attacker. So I would take my chances with Richarlison. Member for 1 month as well. Appreciate that. Unfortunately, I can't see who is the member for 1 month. So maybe if you drop a message in chat, I'd appreciate that so I can shout you out correctly. Solid differential, come on, baby, says Chill Planet. Fair. Starts Zabarni or Gabriel. Definitely Zabarni in this situation. As I said, the Arsenal clean sheet odds are very, very low this week. It is Man City at home, right? So, well, as in Man City playing at home. Country Knowledge says Saka De Bruyne. I'd still go De Bruyne. Mo, thank you so much for your super chat. Start Gabriel or Saliba for 1 week punt before wildcard 31. Also, best bench order between Arsenal defense, Morris, and Doughty. First, I think I would go more. I'd probably go Morris over the Arsenal defense. Then I would go Arsenal defense. Then I would go Doughty in that order. As far as start Gabriel or Saliba for 1 week punt. I mean, it's not much of a 1 week punt though, is it? So I would say Gabriel. I mean, anytime you get Gabriel, I'd say he's got always more chances to score. So take the goal scoring center back, right? Bowen to Cole or Salah ready now for -4. I think just go Salah for -4. Free hit available. Yeah, I think that's fine. I would still go with Salah. Can you talk a little bit about your plans to set up for a bench boost? Yeah, for sure. Let's do it now. So within my own team, right? I think one of the things that we need to mention, of course, is that Pau Torres is kind of useless. But I also need to plan for Gameweek 34. So let's just talk about how I plan to navigate in the short term. I think to navigate for Gameweek 34, what I want to do is still have either Salah plus Darwin / Cunha. Cunha is going to be, one less additional sort of hit. Whereas if I go for Darwin next week, because I'm trying to target the Sheffield United fixture, I have to go for Sarabia from Neto just to sort of make the funds up and, have that money available. So that is unfortunately the situation that I'm in. So because of that, I think it makes a lot of sense for me to sort of wait and see what happens with the Brighton game and then assess whether I want to go for Darwin or not. If I go for Darwin, as you can see, I would go with Salah, Sarabia, and Salah. So that would make me very strong for Gameweek 34. And I don't really think I need any additional transfers for Gameweek 34, except for maybe an Everton transfer, right? I can do an Everton defender transfer. I'll probably skip on a Virgil van Dijk. I think that's fine. I'm comfortable with only having Salah and Darwin. In that situation, of course, as I said, I would be going with an Everton defender, probably Branthwaite, and that would be probably good enough in terms of defense because I'd be playing Gabriel, I'd be playing Saliba, I'd be playing Branthwaite as well, just to save some money. And then, of course, when Game Week 34 comes around, I've got the choice to maybe go towards Eze from Son, right? I could drop Son, but I think it still makes more sense for me to play a 3-4-3 at the end of the day, and probably just play a somewhat weak team, having Son on the bench, and just have Solanke, Darwin, plus Haaland, which I think is totally fine. And then on 35, because I would have rolled on 34, I think I can see myself going with Trippier and Isak as well, right? Simply put, Newcastle have the best fixture on Game Week 35, and that gets me a little bit closer in terms of the doublers that I want. Hopefully by then, Gusto is still someone that actually is playing consistently for Chelsea. So is Palmer, so that I can also attack those Chelsea fixtures like such. What I might actually do as well is maybe somewhere around that time, because I think I missed one transfer around Game Week 33, is I could definitely go for, maybe something like Neto or rather Flecken to Petrovic, because even though Flecken has good fixtures in the short term, I think Flecken to Petrovic is just going to give me additional fixtures. So that could be worthwhile. That could set me up for Game Week 37 as well. And then around 36, 37, a lot of hits will have to be taken, right? So let's say if I don't go for Petrovic, I can go for players like Jackson. If I don't go for Jackson, I can simply just go for more defenders. So I could be looking at potentially, bringing a Porro into the team potentially, maybe a Madison as well, and just going for these Spurs players, because we can't guarantee necessarily that Man City players will have really consistent minutes. So one thing that I'll say is I'll probably assess the Man City defender landscape. If it's still very bad, if it seems like it's pretty rotation prone because they're involved in a lot of competitions, we skip the City players. Maybe we go for Foden at one point in time as well. Maybe we can see ourselves going out of Saka, but those are sort of my general thoughts. And then in terms of the front line, Isak has to come in basically, as I said, on 35 as a transfer. But the other forward, I'm not so sure right now, like who that person would be. It could be João Pedro, all things considered. So those are my rough plans in the future. A couple hits have to be taken. So next week I have to take some hits around 35, 36, 37. I imagine I'm taking some -4s, some -8s. MW, thank you for your super chat. Bone to Cole. I think, sorry, I've answered that already. So I did say go for Salah instead. Dan Watson as well. Hey mate, Captain Salah, Son or Palmer. I would still personally go with Son. I think he's got the best goal scoring odds. I would still take the chance to go with Son personally. Notorious says, good to see you, brother. You got to chase Frank's mini league. Palmer's a captain differential. No, I think yeah. If you really want to chase, and you have a lot of points to chase, I think Palmer captaincy as a differential is fair. Am I bringing in Salah? Not this week. I'll be bringing in Salah next week instead. Would you start Aït-Nouri over Zabarni this week? No, I'd still play Zabarni, I'd say. Foden to Madison for a -4. I don't think it's worth it, right? Because unfortunately, Madison is going to be a blanker in Gameweek 34. So the transfer is going to feel good for the short term, but then it's actually going to bite you a little bit because Foden's going to have better fixtures as well. And I'm not really sure the Madison -4 is going to pay off. Garnacho, Odegaard, I'd still play Garnacho in this situation. Luis to Salah or Bowen to Salah. I'd take the opportunity here to actually go Luis to Salah. Well, actually, no, I'd still go Bowen to Salah. I think, get as much money back in the bank as possible, and then just keep Louise for a really good fixture. And maybe you can transfer Louise out next week to someone else. Just Jaden says, wildcard this week, no free hit. Virgil van Dijk or Saka long term. If VVD, what's a good mid option? I think you've got to go Saka long term personally, because I think Saka, starting from next week is a great fixture. Even though Virgil has Sheffield United at home, I would take the chance to go Saka. Personally, what I would do is I would still try to maximize the short term by going with Bradley and just keep Saka within your team if possible. The Flying Naga says, and thanks as well for being a member for 1 month. Who would you captain? Palmer down the middle versus Burnley, or Son down the wing versus. The thing is, we can't be 100% sure that Son's gonna play down the wing, right? We don't know whether Richarlison's 100% fit. And another thing too is that we have seen before, we've still seen Richarlison left wing. So I wouldn't be so sure that it's just purely, one person in the middle, one person down the wing. And you never know, right? Richarlison could be an early substitute. That could mean additional minutes for Son in the centre forward position. And that could be good enough. And I think really because of the gulf in fixture, I still think there's a huge gap between Luton and Burnley as defenses. I know a lot of us just simply look at them as relegation fodder, but Luton are really the worst defense in town. I would still go with Son. But Palmer, I think, is close because, of course, this is still ultimately the 3rd/4th worst defense in the league, right? And despite Palmer, let's say, having slightly worse underlying stats compared to Son, particularly from the XG front, Palmer's still a very, very good option. But I would go Son for sure first. And yeah, if you want to go for differential, go for Palmer. Bench goalkeeper option long term, I'd still say Petrovic. We've got the Sanchez injury, so it helps out a lot. Start Raya Areola. I'd start Areola. Would you captain Salah if you had him? No, I'd still captain Son. Martinez or Neto better in goal? I'd say Martinez. Play Saka over Son. No, I wouldn't play any of them. John Wick, I'd probably keep him on the bench. Why Gabriel over Saliba? Just the goal threat, right? Just the goal threat. Start Elanga or Douglas Luiz. Douglas Luiz. It's pretty close actually. I'd still probably go Douglas Luiz. Should I start Morris or Nathan Ake or Gabriel? I'd probably consider Morris or Nathan Ake. I probably wouldn't play Gabriel. I'm reluctantly playing Gabriel. My defense is just weak, right? I had Senesi who's injured. Otherwise, I would have played basically Senesi, Pau, and Gusto. I'd start Ake and Foden. Pau versus Gabriel. I'd go Pau for sure. Palmer's differential captain. Yeah, I agree with that. Start Saka or Semenyo. I'd probably go Semenyo as a differential. So 10 minutes left until the deadline. Ariel or Dubravka? I'd go Dubravka just to get the home player within my team. Any news on Saka starting? My keeper is Neto. Any news on Saka starting? I think he's going to start, but I don't have any news in terms of confirmed news, unfortunately. So yeah, that's just that. I don't think we have any leaks as well, unfortunately, today. I can have a look again, but I don't think we have leaks, and unfortunately, that's the reality of today. I'd love to be in a world where I could do Pedro Porro as a -4, but I just think with the chances of getting Darwin next week and maybe Darwin with good minutes for Sheffield United, I'd like to take my chances with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to quickly have a look in terms of if there's any leaks as well. So apologies if I'm not responding to chat immediately right now. Just think we've got a good chance here to sort of respond to some leaks, and why not? All right, back to chat though. Captain Watkins, if you really want to, I still think he's a bit of a differential, but I'm not sure if I was thoroughly considering Watkins at all this week, particularly since everyone has great home fixtures and, even worse defenses like Luton and Burnley, and of course Salah. Is Tony playing? Yeah, I think Tony's playing for sure. Why wouldn't he play? Vladimir says, hello, my friend. Start Gabriel Zabarnyi and Saka Foden. I would go Zabarnyi and I'd go Foden as well. Saka or Garnacho? I'd probably go Garnacho. Morris to Darwin for a hit. I think that could be worth it for a hit, yeah. Gabriel or Ait-Nouri? I'd still probably actually play Ait-Nouri, to be honest. Saka or Diaz to start? I'd go with Saka still. I mean, it's still Saka. Saka or Bailey? I'd go with Bailey. Madison, is he playing? I think Madison's playing. Advice on players to target the next few weeks for people who still have free hit and bench boost. If you got free hit and bench boost, free at 34, bench boost 37 is what I would say. Why keep Doughty over Senesi? Because, Senesi is still injured, right? So Senesi's apparently coming back from maybe the Luton fixture, but we don't have any guarantees that he's going to play there. So I think if it comes to Gameweek 32 and I need a player, I'd much rather play Doughty versus Bournemouth at home than, let's say, Senesi with the off chance that maybe he's not even going to start. Because unfortunately he's still not recovered from his injury. Aston says, should I start Morris or Nathan Ake? I'd still probably start Morris if I'm honest, but I'm going to have to put you in timeout because we don't like spamming the chat. If you guys are here, by the way, feel free to like and subscribe as well. That would be really appreciated. Bench Saka or Semenyo? I'd start Semenyo and bench Saka in that situation. I think you got a chance to. This is really Saka's worst fixture of the season, right? It doesn't get worse than this. You've got chances to go differential. I don't have chances to go differential because unfortunately, I've got this brother Pedro Neto within my team. Why is no one captaining Haaland? Well, you've got 3 players here who have just much better fixtures than Salah, Son, and Palmer, and that's all I would say. Bench Ake, Gabriel, or Nouri. I'd probably bench Gabriel in that situation. Saka, Odegaard. I'd probably bench Saka. Just maybe go with a slightly differential Odegaard play here. Mokhtar says Solanke over Darwin is a pick since Darwin might. Yeah, but the thing is, Darwin might get benched, but you're never sure, right? I think Solanke's safer though. I agree with that. So yeah, if you want a stable, consistent pick, Solanke's your man. Bruno Fernandes or Garnacho? I'd go Fernandes, but I mean, what's the question here? Is this for like a free hit? Is this for a 1 week punt? Because long term, I'd say Garnacho is better than Fernandes. Captain Salah or Son? I mean, I'm going Son, but I think Salah's a great differential, so it's up to you. Saka or KDB to start? I'd go with KDB. Douglas Luiz to Fernandes. I would go. No, I wouldn't transfer Fernandes in. I don't think it makes sense. I wouldn't go Fernandes. I wouldn't go Fernandes for a hit. Makes no sense. Play Tony today over Saka. Yeah, I think that's fine, Horam. Saka, Alvarez, Bowen, which 2 to start? I would go with. I think it's tough. Like, I'm not sure if Alvarez starts, I'm not sure if Alvarez starts. I'd probably go with Saka and Bowen. Dimitri says, thank you so much as well. Captain Salah or Son plus start Saka or Garnacho. I would captain. I still think Son's the best option, personally. And then I would bench Saka, so I would start Garnacho. Thank you for your super chat as well. Is Richarlison starting? I can't confirm that. Wood over Saka, I would take that chance, yeah. Wood over Saka is a good chance. Because ultimately, right, as I said, this is Saka's worst fixture of the season. If you actually had someone who's mildly competent this week, I would definitely bench Saka for him. Unfortunately, I can't, so I'm playing Saka. But it is what it is. If you had Salah, would you still captain Son? Yeah, I would still captain Son. Gabriel or Bradley to start? Bradley for sure. 100% Bradley. Thanks, brother. Thanks, Dimitris. Any leaks? No leaks today, it doesn't seem like. Dubravka or Areola, I would still go with the home keeper there with Dubravka. Van Dijk to Gusto. I don't think it's worth transferring Van Dijk out. I would much rather keep Van Dijk, actually. Doughty to Robinson from Fulham. It's nice, but then I think, what's the plan here with Robinson long term? Are you just looking for Robinson as a 1 week punt, or what's the situation? Wouldn't it be safer to start Saliba since Gabriel could be taken up before 90? I mean, that would be a nice thing, hopefully, right? I don't really mind. I still take my chances with Gabriel here. And I don't think Gabriel is really injured at all. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if he's injured, he plays. I mean, he doesn't play, and if he's not injured, I think he just plays 90. You started Ait-Nouri. That's fine. I think that's fine. If you start Ait-Nouri over the Arsenal defender, makes a lot of sense to me. Any Newcastle news? No, unfortunately, I don't have any news on Trippier and things like that. TZD Twisted, thank you for your super sub. Bench Saka or Foden? I would bench Saka, personally. It is, as I said, the worst fixture, and he's the away player, and I really like my home and away differences, so I'd much rather Foden. E7, thank you for your super chat. Saka or Douglas Luiz plus Kaminsky or Raya. I would still play Douglas Luiz. I'd probably honestly just play Kaminsky because I think, Man City versus Arsenal are one of those fixtures where I'm not expecting Man City, for example, to shoot like 40 shots, right? Like I'm expecting maybe Man City they could score. It could be a clinical goal. Foden could score. Who knows? KDB could score. And it's going to be low scoring, as in low shots. But then I think with Kaminsky, it's like I just can't see a world where Kaminsky isn't peppered with a bunch of shots from this Tottenham team. And if we're expecting both to lose their clean sheet, I'd rather go with Kaminsky. KDB going to play? I can't guarantee that, but I think he's been fit, which is what Pep has said, and I think it's very likely that KDB will play. We've seen him in training for more than a week now, so I think KDB should play, but I've got no guarantees on that. Salah, thank you for your super chat again. My Gameweek 31 transfers are Solanke / Foden to Semenyo / Salah for -4, as this enables me to get Salah and also have a Bournemouth doubler in Gameweek 34. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Honestly, I really like those transfers. Ultimately, of course, it's regretful to kind of go out of Foden, but you never know. There's going to be Champions League rotation. Maybe he's prioritized for the Champions League fixture. It is a very big fixture for Real Madrid. And yeah, ultimately, I think you've got Salah, which, more than makes sense. And then Solanke to Semenyo, I don't love it so much, but I understand it's just a case of cash in the bank, right? So makes sense to me. Semenyo has actually sort of moved higher up in terms of the pecking order within this Bournemouth team, and particularly within that right wing position. So hopefully he keeps his minutes for Game Week 34, and hopefully he's still going to be a good pick for you. Who do you think will get the top 4 spots, Fran? I think the top 4 is still going to be Arsenal, Liverpool, City for sure. I mean, and then it's a toss-up between Aston Villa and Tottenham. I still think Tottenham are probably going to get top 4. I think Villa will probably get 5th, and then United 6th. But yeah, I mean, nothing else to add. I mean, obviously United, they're looking better, I would say. You're United as well specifically, but there is still a pretty big points gap, right? Which is maybe not insurmountable, I would say, but Tottenham actually do have some pretty good fixtures in between, right? Like you'd expect them to take the points versus Luton. They have a Sheffield United fixture. They've got a Burnley fixture left. These are all games where Tottenham can definitely still take a lot of points. So, yeah, Chelsea 4th. All right, good one, John Wick. Maybe next season, yeah. Palmer for Hwang for a -4 to start him over Saka / Foden. I don't really love it too much because I still think maybe Hwang's going to be useful for you in Gaming 34. But if you really don't want to keep Hwang in your team at all, you could probably go Palmer over Hwang to bench Saka. It's not too bad, I would say. Saka or Gordon, I'd definitely start Gordon. Saka or Garnacho, come on, guys. I'd go Garnacho. This is a great chance to sort of take a punt. 1 minute as well to the deadline. Start Garnacho or Gordon. I would go Gordon. Gusto for Saliba. I wouldn't transfer out Saliba. He's so useful for next week. Cameron says -8 Doughty, Bowen, and Tony to Gusto, Salah, and Isak to get Holland. I think that's fine, Cameron. Makes sense. Guys, you're running out of time. You're running out of time, my friends. Make your transfers. Make your decisions. Don't ask me in chat because I've answered most of them. As a Solanke, I'd go Solanke. Foden or Richarlison, I'd go Richarlison. Start Cunha or Douglas Luiz, I would go Douglas Luiz because I don't know if Cunha starts this fixture. Or is it Kunja? I actually need to find out how to pronounce Cunha correctly. Cheers for all you guys. You're a legend. Doughty hit for Gusto. I think it's worth it if you have to play Doughty, yeah. That's it. Pens down. The deadline's refreshed. All right, guys. Unfortunately, as I said, I am on holiday, so I'm going to have to leave you guys. So thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Appreciate you for being around. Hopefully the stream setup wasn't so bad. But I really appreciate you guys for being here. If you guys can like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, that would be really appreciated. Hope you guys have lovely game weeks ahead. We, of course, have 3 game weeks within the next week, so that's going to be a lot of FPL. I'm going to be taking -8 or -4. We'll see what happens. I need to watch Liverpool versus Brighton and make the correct assessment there. But take care, you guys. Enjoy the time with your family, and goodbye.